After Pep Guardiola stated that the Champions League is an easier competition to win than the Premier League after his latest failure in Europe, I thought I want to look into this a bit further. Welcome to Halftime Football, where today we'll be discussing whether it's harder to win a domestic league or the UEFA Champions League. Now, the first thing I want to dive into here is the differences between skill, luck and consistency when it comes to these competitions. The idea of luck is something that's very important in the Champions League, and I'll give a few examples. First of all, single moments of stupidity from the opposition can decide an entire tie. Remember when Sven Ulreich gifted Real Madrid a goal which ultimately won them the game in the 2018 semi-finals? Those single moments mean so much more, and it can go the other way as well. One piece of individual brilliance can decide the entire competition. However, it's really up for interpretation whether you can call that luck or skill when it comes to individual brilliance, because those sort of moments, those sort of defining moments, they come from the top talent, and that's something that luck cannot get you. Although, another thing, you could get an incredibly lucky hand in your draws, sort of like Liverpool had this season. They had a road to the final of Inter, Benfica and Villarreal, while Real Madrid had to play PSG, Chelsea and Man City. Of course, Liverpool didn't beat Real in the final, but it's a good example of how sometimes you can sort of fluke your way through the stages of the Champions League, whereas in the league you can't do that. Also, the luck with injuries is something that's very important, especially in the latter stages of the Champions League. If you're lucky, like Real Madrid were when Sergio Ramos injured Mo Salah in the 2018 final, or 3 years later when the same matchup allowed Vinicius Jr. to go up against Ozan Kabak, opposition injuries can completely turn the tide of the game to your side and allow for a much more comfortable run. Things like this won't have such an impact in the league, as most injuries are for very few games, which once more gives off the idea that winning the Champions League requires a lot of luck behind it. But then again, as I said before, individual skill and talent is just as important. Again, individual moments that decide ties, like Messi's goal against Real Madrid in 2011, is something that has nothing to do with luck. To win the Champions League, you need a squad full of players who can produce moments like these, and finding those players is an arduous task in itself. However, when you compare that to league campaigns, you realise that consistency is a lot more important in the 38 games. In leagues like the Premier League, especially recently, you have to be on top of your game every single week in order to even stand a chance of competing, as Liverpool have found out recently, having lost 2 league campaigns by 1 point. You need the concentration and endurance to maintain the top level performance, and it's made even worse by games being played every 3 to 4 days now. It's far more difficult to maintain that level over 38 games instead of 7 knockout games, which in reality you only need to turn up in 4 of, and a group stage which should just be a free pass. As I've said as well, you can get relatively easy draws in the Champions League, but you don't get that in the domestic leagues. Leagues like Serie A, La Liga, the Premier League, they force you to face the best teams twice a season, and in some leagues, anyone can beat anyone, which makes winning the league a much more difficult task. In the Champions League, you can get an easy group stage and first few knockout rounds, especially if you're one of the clubs in the top 5 leagues, because there's such a financial gulf between your leagues and the rest of European football. You can take your foot off the pedal for a lot of those games, but as I've said, the league requires you to go full throttle every single week. Then again, a good counter-argument to that could be the fact that if you have one really bad game in the Champions League, you're out. Generally though, far more consistency is required in league competitions, which is sort of a true testament of talent rather than just raw quality. However, there is a feeling of heritage around the Champions League where you can't really buy your way to the title. In league competitions, sure, you can do what teams like Man City have done and splash out on a huge squad which can cope with the demands of high-intensity top-flight football, but there's something very different about the Champions League. A much different mentality is required, one that's usually ingrained within the club, like the miracles we saw with Real Madrid this season. They have the Champions League DNA, and so do Liverpool. It's something that's built up over decades. There's a reason it took Chelsea so long to win it, and there's a reason it's taking so long for PSG and Man City to win it. You can't really buy the character and mentality that's required to perform in the big moments in the Champions League, but you can buy a squad which has the mentality to get you over the line in 38 games. The coveted Big Ears trophy holds a lot of prestige, and the difficulty of winning it shouldn't be underestimated. Also, in all honesty, winning the league feels a lot less special than winning the Champions League. When you think about legacies and what's remembered in the history books, people are far more likely to remember Champions League winners than they are someone who won the league 2 or 3 times in a row, let's say. This in essence creates a pressure which is very difficult to beat, and it makes Champions League nights very special, and only those who are up to the task can actually perform. Well, I've weighed this up for long enough now, and I do believe that the Champions League is harder to win than the domestic leagues, except for one case, the Premier League. We've seen in the past few years complete and utter dominance from both Manchester City and Liverpool, with both teams barely dropping points yet still taking the title down to the wire. Essentially, if you're competing in a very tight league at the top, or a league where you're really far behind the leaders, then yes, winning the league is harder than winning the Champions League. But if you're Juventus, Bayern, PSG, and you could even argue Real Madrid in the modern day, then winning the Champions League is a much more stressful task than winning your respective domestic league. However, if you're truly the best like Liverpool and Real Madrid have been recently, you can compete on both fronts. But really, let me know where you weigh in on this debate, because I think it's seriously interesting. The ideas of skill, luck, talent, mentality, they can go any way, and yeah, it's a crazy debate, so just let me know what you think down below. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. If you did make it this far, please be sure to like and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see in the future down below, and I'll see you next time.